And we're live.
Save it for the stream.
Save it for the stream. That's the
Save
word
it
of the
for the
day.
stream.
The phrase of the day. You know what I mean.
Welcome to Livebrush. It's the
Hey,
brushiest
everybody.
brush in the world. Livebrush.
So guess what, folks? This is episode 20 of season
20.
3. We
Well,
finally made
welcome
it.
back, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Back from hiatus.
Number 20. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Pretty
nuts.
How you doing, dude?
And that was just this season though.
I know this season. We've done hundreds of episodes. Hundreds.
But I've never done. Have you done anything more? Like, I wonder how many
Have I
episodes
done
you've
anything more
actually
than
done.
20 times? Yeah, a few things. Just a few. Oh man, we need to. I need like audience laughter. I need to get that on the little stream.
Dude,
the
you
stream
have
board.
to.
Yeah,
Oh
we gotta.
my
This needs to be
God.
like a Seinfeld sitcom situation.
Oh my God.
Hey,
Oh
everybody,
my God, yeah.
everyone in the chat. Thank you. Good to see everyone as well.
I can't see my chat for some reason.
Yeah, my chat disappeared for a sec, but I have it on the moderator. On the moderator
Oh,
window.
you do?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should do that.
Just to start it out, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for viewing. There's lots of people you can view on Twitch. Lots of streamers out there, and we appreciate you checking us out.
Yes.
What are we doing? What are you doing, Ray?
Dude, I'm just hanging right now.
I like that.
I am oh, there he is. I just got the stream chat up here. I am working on. Geez, the last time I think we left, I was working on the underpainting of a small painting that I was doing, right? So I finished that piece,
Right.
because I had to get it done. I don't have I was going to show it on stream too. Well, I'll show it. I'll post it to the Livebrush Instagram account.
Sweet.
I will do that.
Yeah,
because I have it it's on my SD card, and my SD card is somewhere not around here.
Everybody follow that if you get a chance. Check us out on the Instagrams.
So now this is a study that I did. Actually, I started on this season, and I am doing a comp for it. Oops, there it is. So it looks like this.
Zoom that out, dude. Zoom that out. Let everyone see the whole thing.
Dude, I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Center it. Just center it. Scroll it down. Pull it down.
I can't see my. There it is. There you go.
Oh yeah, this one's gonna be sweet. That's moody, man. That's moody, but it's also modern. I like that too.
That's moody modern. Maybe that's what moody I tell people I do.
Yeah,
moody
modern. Put that on your business cards. You got business cards?
Yeah. Moody modern artist. Moody modern art. Right.
Remember how? Just as a small aside, remember how important business cards were when we were getting out of school?
Dude, I was just thinking about that. I swear, I was just thinking about that a couple of weeks ago when I was in New York.
Yeah,
for Robin's show. So I was in New York as part of my birthday. And
happy birthday to Ray, everybody.
And was Robin Ely, a good buddy of mine, was having an exhibition. He was doing a collaboration with a man by the name of oh my God, I think David Corrins. I think David's name is.
Dude,
he did the sets for.
If you're Corrins, forgetting a name, there's something.
No, I got it.
There's something wrong.
Dude, it's been bad. It's been horrible for me the last couple of months. So
I can't remember any names.
David
so
Corrins.
Good job.
David Corrins did the sets for Hamilton, and he did the Oscars.
No kidding. That's amazing.
The most recent set for the Oscars, yeah. Which I remember seeing the setup for it. I don't know. I think it was because Robin had sent it. I was like, man, that's beautiful. And just so.
Yeah, the Hamilton sets were really good too, man. Dang.
Yeah, they were awesome. And so I remember when I met him. A small aside, I was like, I remember, I was like, those sets were beautiful. And he was saying like he was like, yeah, too bad nobody saw them, and instead saw Will Smith smacking Chris Rock.
Dude, I know.
And I was
God.
like, I completely forgot that had happened.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, by
so,
now it's like I've forgotten that it occurred. But then, like, to hear that perspective, like, yeah, of course that was like a huge distraction, man. It's
yeah,
like
exactly,
from the
right,
whole rest of the show. Like, what a huge distraction.
dude. And so that's when he had said that, I was like, oh my god, that's what that would have happened. Oop, to me. This is something actually I'm working
Don't
on here.
show them that. Don't show them
Um,
that, dude.
Not yet, not yet. It's not yet. I'll work on it next maybe next show. So I'm meeting all these artists and stuff. Like people flew in from London and you know, or like Santa Fe, like David Casson that we were talking about,
Yeah, yeah.
and Shayna Levinson. Really really awesome artists. And so we were hanging out and stuff. And a lot of people that we all knew each other, but it was, from on social media. I knew Robin, but like we were all friends with Robin, which is nutty, but we knew each other on social media. Tyler, we're meet all these people. It's huge networking, right? I mean, like you're meeting other artists and stuff. Guess how many business cards were exchanged?
I want to say one, your business card.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. What did we do? What do
Well, I bet
we?
this is what I bet happened. This is what I bet happened.
Okay.
Someone was like, "What's your Instagram?"
Ding 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 ding
Yeah,
ding.
exactly. And then
Done.
people, it's amazing that this is what I was thinking about the other day. Like, I'm glad you brought it up this way because this is it. I was it was like I had a whole bunch of business cards at a recent event. Not to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt your story, but just a quick aside.
No, that's it. That was the end of my story. That was the end of my story.
Well, I had a whole bunch of business cards and people were grabbing them, but I was like, I remember us obsessing over getting these cards when we were in
Oh my
school.
god. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, guess what? No one uses them anymore. Now we do the long process of what's your Instagram, taking out our phones, and then someone dictating their weird Instagram name that may have nothing to do with them. I mean, mine is me and yours is you, but some people have
Right.
Instagram names that like don't mean anything. And so it's like,
Right.
okay, well, how do I spell that? And it's like, oh, well, there's, five asterisks and a whole bunch of weird stuff in there. And then that gets you to their, quasi portfolio. And that's how we exchange business cards now.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Now the flip side is if you could do it really quickly, uh, like you could show them, you know, on their phone, what they do, and then it's like a immediate discussion point. But what was funny was business cards were supposed to be that. That was a conversation starter. It's like you had your best image or the most powerful image on there, and then you could talk.
Well, and I was even gaming that system with my card. Like I made like a weird card, right? So it's like the American Psycho situation where like I have a weird card, even though nobody in that scene had a weird card, but it was like the card was the discussion. Like
Right.
I have a weird card, and so people are like, oh, and then like they remember the card because of this. Like, and who cares about cards now? Nobody cares about cards. Like it's almost like they need to change the phone interaction between people and make it like a business card exchange, right? Instead of like what's your
Yeah.
Instagram and then typing it in, it should just be like broadcast my Instagram to every phone around me.
Right. Right. Which is, by the way, 100% coming in the form of augmented reality.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's how it'll
Like
happen.
it'll be
Like it'll
like,
it'll
yeah,
be like,
floating above someone's head and they'll be able
yeah,
to,
you and I are wearing glasses. Like, oh, here's my work. You
yeah.
know, um, because it's super easy, and then you could keep your eyes on the person. This is the thing too. Like, in a way, well, it'll change social dynamics like phones did, but you're in certain ways it's going to be weird. You have people like looking past you when they're talking, but in other places like, well, your eyes are more directly You know, maybe something. Maybe it'll go back to uh, people looking at each other. You know,
Yeah,
when
no,
they're talking.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, as the tech gets better, right? I think it will totally, that will totally
Yeah.
become, because it's like right now, when you're doing like a Zoom call, we tend to drift to our, yeah, yeah, in the chat, yeah, we're already at Boomer Talk, yeah,
The Give Santos. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back in my day.
oh, what was I saying? Forget it. I've lost my train of thought. The chat always does that to me. You know what? We got a question in the chat from Wovy Chops. This time on this stream I won't give away the identity of Wolvie Chops because I do it every single time, and it's that I've not asked Wolvie Chops' permission to give away their identity, so I won't do that this time.
Okay.
Okay, this
Okay.
is for you though,
Okay.
dude. This is for you. It's been a
Oh, okay.
while,
Right
but
on.
last time they asked about your study processes.
Yeah.
And let's see. When do you decide when you are done with a study and move on to start the final painting? Do you ever, let's see, do you ever like the study enough to just continue and turn it into a final painting? Oh yeah, like do you ever have like a tiny little study and you're like, I'm just gonna stick on this and make it a final instead of like moving to a bigger painting?
Yes. Yes, I do, because I use the studies as tryouts for pieces, well, like intending to paint them large. That's the difference with like my small paintings and at least the way I do them now versus the way like I did them maybe like 10 years ago. With they were just a small painting was a small painting. Now they're studies for much larger paintings. They're tryouts for them, and so sometimes I just when I'm painting on a study and it's like it's okay, it's good, but I think it works just good here, just good at this size. Then I'll just finish it off and then be like, all right, next idea. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so I always kind of keep it kind of open. You know what's funny? Like uh, working on these. So I photographed this study, and then I did an underpainting for this painting because I had this idea of how I was going to do it, and I kind of changed like how I wanted to approach the painting. So I kind of merged both of them together. It's hard to see on here, but this is like a photo merge of like a combination of my study and my 24 by 30 painting, just the underpainting part. And so you'll see some of the underpainting kind of like right here. I don't know if this is showing up here. It's like brownish. But I, I thought like, wow, this is something that I really like to do. I'm so happy I came across it. Like I kind of figured this out, dude. Well, I'm not doing anything new. Like I found out later on, like when we did Vision X. After Vision X is what did it actually for me. What made me realize this. This is actually a common practice in landscape painters. Like what they'll do, like do you remember Kimball Geisler? That Kimball Geisler, the I'll flash this painting right here. This guy, this artist right here, landscape painter. This stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I was referencing his trees earlier in a painting I was working on.
Yeah. So, dude, so his paintings are large. He 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 does a study and he just keeps scaling up his painting. So when he will go slightly larger, then slightly larger, then slightly larger, and slightly larger. Do you
Oh,
see what I'm
okay.
saying?
So he's like working out the mark making at various scales, right?
Exactly.
How do I get the
Exactly.
same look at this scale, kind of thing?
Right. So instead of me, so I'm basically that's what I'm doing, but I'm just doing it digitally because I could work really large if I wanted to. And I can get really in high fidelity, or I can get really small stuff that I couldn't do with a small study. Like there's only so much you could fit in fidelity wise,
Right,
right?
right. And that's what
So
I like about digital is like if you want to go noodle, you can, but if you want to like sit way back, you can.
you can, right, and you could do it like in blink of an eye. Uh, and so yeah, so I'm just doing that, but I'm just doing it digitally. Go figure. And it's a common practice, and like Mr. You know I know everything about oil painting. Ray Bonilla. I was
Yeah,
gonna
dude.
say Tyler Jacobson.
You think? Yeah,
Uh,
you really think you know a lot about oil painting? I'm just saying. You really think you know a lot about it?
it was like I discovered this. I discovered it. It's a revolution. No, not really. It's been done. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, Wolvie. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, everyone. Good to see everybody.
Nick DeLuca, what's up, man?
Yeah, and who do we got? We got Nelson
Amazing. Yeah, we got.
1778. Yeah, I guess we met at PAX. Very nice meeting you there, man.
So was it PAX you were handing out those cards?
So yeah, I brought cards to PAX, and I mean, granted, like a lot of people took them, but
Yeah.
I was just like, why does this even exist? Like they can just Google my name. It's all of that. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like we got them in an age of not, we didn't have that ability really yet, and it's, I guess, just a
No.
massive part of now.
Right. Yeah. And I remember when I was thinking to myself, things are starting to change. Uh, like I had like a something that made me kind of think like, this might not be a common practice pretty soon. Was like I was at a party one time and I met someone who's actually ended up being a good buddy of mine's now, and he ran a design. He runs a design firm, like an advertising firm in Buffalo here, and so him and I were like exchanging business cards, and I had his business card. Like he gave me his business card. No, I gave him my business card, and he took out his phone and basically just like I don't know if he just like waved it in front of his phone, and then I don't know if he handed it back to me. Like he was like, "Thanks, man," or something
Whoa.
like. But he his the phone, he had an app that captured the business card, captured the text, added the text to a list of contacts immediately.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was
So,
like 6 7 years ago, right? And so
but like the act of like being like, Here's your card back." It's like, whoa, dude, what?
right, because he's like, I don't want to lose it, and things like that. Like, so it wasn't like he was just. It was almost like he's like, I look at my phone all the time and I want to have it here.
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
like that's where the value was. I was thinking to myself, okay, this
That's
might
super
be
cool, though.
interesting. Yeah. Um, and then I remember shortly after that I met I'm not gonna say their name, a really really famous, I think, artist, uh, and in comics. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I asked, I said, "Can I give you my business card?" And he's like, "Yeah, can I give you my business card?" And he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? It might end up at the, I might end, it'll run around in my pocket. I might throw it out by accident. I don't know.
Oh, nice. So he's a nice guy.
Just like told me that like
It's funny that
don't
some
even bother.
some people think like it's important to go out of their way to say those words, you know? Like that's a
Yeah,
lot of words to put out, like just to say
business.
like I don't really want you to give me your business card. Like
Yeah,
why
like I
not
have
just
no
take
interest.
it
Yeah,
and like get rid of it later? Like why
yeah.
be
He wanted me to know that that's what he was gonna do.
It's
Like
a
it
weird
didn't mean
it's a
anything.
weird ass power move.
Yeah,
Very weird.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah. It kind of
Whatever,
bummed me out
whatever,
a little bit
whatever.
for a while. At the time,
Hey, never
I
meet your
don't now.
heroes. Never meet your heroes.
Not.
Everybody.
Well, that's not true. You know, I turned out okay when you met me.
I was impressed.
Oh,
Oh, F in the chat, by the way. Oh, we got a Kate Welch in the chat, everybody.
no way. Oh my goodness. Oh
Well,
my goodness.
they're
Kate Welch is
babe,
in the chat. Let me see. Hold
they're
on. I'm
not that
going on.
valuable. I have thousands of
No,
them. They cost like
we
$3.
control the chat. We're the chat masters now. How do we ban? No.
Who moderates? The
Who moderates?
I have noticed now. We talked about this last time about what the
F in the chat
Lubot
for Kate
about.
Welch.
Yeah, F in the chat for Kate Welch. Congratulate Kate Welch. She's
D.
got a new job.
Director Kate Welch. Sorry, Director Kate Welch.
She's director. Abbreviated to DR, I believe. DR dot.
Kate, let me know. Let me know. I'm down for going beret shopping anytime you want.
Oh man. So okay.
Can we get one of those those old school megaphones? You know, they're not like electric, the old director ones.
Yeah, why not? Y'all like the ones that were like cones from like the 1920s?
Yeah, like the cones. Yeah, Kate,
Oh
you
yeah.
need to do that.
Dude, I think we can do that. I think they still make those. That's like a Graflex flash gun, they still make that.
What's a Graflex flash gun?
A Graflex flash gun is the device they use to make Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which is actually Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. But it was a flash that went on cameras. It like attached to a camera. And they're pretty cool. I have like 3 replicas because I'm obsessed with Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. I have like every version of it, including an original Graflex flash gun. But yeah,
You're kidding me.
It's this. It looks. I mean, it is. So the lightsaber that Luke Skywalker has in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back is like they didn't even change anything on it other than one little teeny button. It is just straight up the flash gun. He's just holding that. That's it. All they did was put a loop on the end, and there's like a little button near the top that you would press that would light up. They took that and changed it, and then they put these little fins on the bottom to make it seem like it had a grip. That's it. Otherwise, it's the flash gun, straight up.
So is that why it would like break all the time when the actors would like hit it, like actually hit them together sometimes?
Oh well, I mean the blade part. The blade part was not part of the flash gun.
Oh, okay.
The flash gun is just the handle. Yeah, just the handle is the flash gun.
Got it.
And funny little added nugget of crap, if anyone cares. The pieces they used for Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber in Star Wars New Hope was actually the grenade part of the grip that he had on his was part of a grenade from like a German World War II like this grenade launcher thing that they had. It was like the grenade part.
Dude, how did I not know that you're obsessed with this, and how did I not know that?
Oh, I'm gonna send you pictures, dude. They're fucking awesome. I have 3 versions. I have the actual flash gun, the Graflex flash gun. Then I have the version from Star Wars, and then they changed it. They just ever so slightly changed it for Empire Strikes Back, just slightly. So I have that version, and then
Kate, is this true? Is this true, Kate? Is this true? I want confirmation here.
And then in Force Awakens, they have it's like slightly different. They changed one of the buttons on it, and then there's the not Last Jedi, but what was the fucking last one? What was the stupid last one that they did?
A Rise of Skywalker.
Right, the Rise of Skywalker. They have it like she has like a bracket on the middle of it to like keep the 2 parts that were broken in half. Disrespectfully broken in half in The Last Jedi. Anyways, we don't have to talk about that.
Whoa, that's the same one?
Yeah, same lightsaber all the way through. It's if there's anything cool about the latest movies, it is that they actually carried that lightsaber all the way through.
All right, I'll have it on in the background one day. Yeah, so that's like kit. Man, I love that old school stuff because it's like kit bashing to the extreme, right?
It's like that. How did they know? Like, well, what are we going to use? And it's like, well, we have all of this shit, and one of them is a Graflex, and we'll just use it, and it's super cool. And yeah, Kate is right. She doesn't know I have a lot of crap, and that is correct.
Yeah. So this is not confirmed. This could be. I don't know. I'm gonna believe when I say it. I just don't believe you. F
You
in the
don't
chat
believe?
if you don't believe Tyler.
Wait, you don't believe that I have these, or you don't believe my story about them? Well, what
No, I
don't you
believe the
believe?
story about them. I don't believe that you have these. This is the first time I'm hearing of
Oh,
them.
dude,
And
I'll go get them. And I will go get them.
well,
Not
okay,
right now.
so
Not right now.
um,
Afterwards, I'll send you pictures of them, and you'll be like, "Oh
okay,
fuck,
yeah,
you were
send me
weird."
pictures. Shit, what was I going to tell you? I was going to go into something else, and I totally like that was somewhat. Oh, yeah, it was like you and I were you and I talking about this like an Alien, the original Ridley Scott one. They ran out of money, and like at the end, like they needed to do like an establishing shot of like the landing, the dock, and they didn't have enough money to like build any models like from the ground up, so they took old Transformers, like Transformers action figures, cut them up and spray painted them, and that's what the
Oh
docks
no,
are.
I might have mentioned this. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
I learned that in the history of special effects class that I took in, at the academy when I was an
I
animation major.
That's pretty fucking cool. Pardon
Yeah,
my
you
French.
can't even tell. You
That's
just
what I
learn a
love.
lot on
Like
this
when they
on
do
ever
it
so
just
explain.
right. Like I think we've talked about this on the stream. Like the last scene in Terminator, or like the last moment of the Terminator in the movie Terminator is when like the hydraulic press is like crushing the Terminator.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he's getting like it's just like that last little bit, and then the eye turns off a little bit, like the
Right,
light
right,
dims out, and there's like a little bit of smoke. That was they didn't have that shot, right? They did the whole movie. They didn't have that shot, and they didn't have the model. They didn't have anything. All they had was the eyepiece, and it was James Cameron and Stan Winston at the Stan Winston studio. And they were at night. They were just like, we're just going to do this. They got some foam core and they spray painted it silver, and some crumpled up bits of aluminum foil, and then they had the eyepiece. That's like all they had with them. They didn't have any of the other stuff, so they had the eyepiece there with a bunch of tinfoil, and Stan Winston, was like a notorious cigarette smoker, so he was like just tons and tons of cigarettes around. So he just put one of his cigarettes right near the camera lens so that the smoke was like trailing through the shot, and then he just dimmed the light, and they pushed the foam core together just a little bit, and that was the final Terminator shot of the Terminator getting crushed.
what?
It wasn't even like they didn't have any of the crazy stuff. They just threw a bunch of crap together really fast and made like
Jesus,
the
I
like
didn't
most
know that.
iconic shot in the movie is that last little bit.
I gotta go back and rewatch that, man. Oh God,
Yeah, you should. It's good.
that's what I'm
It's good
talking
stuff.
about. That's what I'm
I like
talking
that. I
about.
like that practical effects stuff where they just kind of like threw it together.
Oh, me too, man. That's oh, I love that stuff. It's like just making magic out of just nothing, you know? Magic out of macaroni.
Magic and macaroni, exactly.
You
I don't even know
know?
what I'm not. What I'm doing over here is I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, what are
messing
you
around
doing? Because
today.
you had me.
I'm just messing
Let's
around.
zoom out.
I don't. I didn't have anything planned, and I want to. I had this weird image in my head, and I don't know if it's going to work, and it probably won't. So I'm just going to screw with it until it does.
That's okay.
And
That's the
that's
magic
usually
of
how.
digital.
Yeah, that's usually how pieces begin and end.
Abandoned in despair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we're getting on the stream today is just a stupid sketch, and we'll see if it goes anywhere.
Okay. Okay. That's okay. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It could just be, you know. Listen, once I'm done with my, I've been doing a lot of, you know, for those of you who don't know, I've been doing a lot of gallery work pieces because I'm just swamped for time. Like I'm just swamped right now, and I need for my show schedule, and it's stuff that I can actually show. You know, it's not like NDA work. You know, I can just show me working on this. You know, and not a problem. Um, but once I'm done with this, you know, I want to get back to doing some portraits, man. Some like
Yeah.
movie stuff.
Yeah, I've got a few in mind, but I'm not.
We should do a Kurosawa week. I had this like concept in
Oh,
my
that'd be
mind,
great. That'd be great.
and we should do two ideas that I had. Kurosawa, like we should just watch a Kurosawa film because I've never watched one. Can you
Like on
believe
the
that?
stream, or just watch the movie.
No, no.
Okay.
Kurosawa, like I've never
I
watched
can't
a
believe that
Kurosawa
you've never
film.
seen a Kurosawa movie, but okay,
Dude.
moving
Yeah,
moving on.
yeah, I know, man. I'm just the worst. And so this is like an excuse to me for to do it, because then I get to watch it twice. Once for just like, just like doing it, and then the second is like for reference. And I really want to do RoboCop.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why.
you want to do a painting of RoboCop?
Yeah, yeah.
Hell
I want
yeah!
to do a RoboCop week. RoboCop set of
Talk about a
whatever.
shift, man. Whew. Kurosawa to
Not
Paul
really.
Verhoeven.
Not
Holy
really.
crap!
Not really. They're both. They're part. They're branches from the same tree. One's maybe a little. Maybe it's a large tree.
Yeah,
One's miles and miles away.
one's like yeah. I mean, an absolute genius, maniac, and then I
And
don't
then
know, probably,
Kurosawa
and then Kurosawa, probably one of the greatest filmmakers in the history of filmmaking.
in the history of filmmaking. Yeah. So those are my like, and we got to do Conan, of course. There's a
That
lot of things we got to do.
yeah, I think we should jump on that. But I mean, I'm cool with like not Terminator, sorry, Terminator on the brain. I'm cool with RoboCop. That's I buy that for $1. I would
I
I
buy
would
that
paint
for
that for $1.
God. There was like a bot on Twitter one time. If you like said RoboCop or something like that, it would tweet back to you. I'd buy that for $1.
Oh my god.
It was like this is old school Twitter, so it's probably obviously gone. But like it would automatically scrub
That's why
scrub scrub Twitter for hashtag RoboCop or someone saying RoboCop and just tweet back
that's
at
when
you. I'd buy
Twitter
that for
died,
$1.
right? That's when people stopped using it.
That's the beginning of the end. Love it. What a great movie.
It is one of the better movies. I don't know, maybe this is more boomer talk again, but it's one of the better movies of all time.
I love that description of it, though. I don't think you can. There's no use recreating RoboCop because you could.
They tried,
It's
man.
not.
They tried.
I know, and I like the actor that they picked for him.
Oh, I love
I
that
like
guy.
that guy.
Love that
He's
guy.
great. What's his? What's the actor's name? Damn.
I know what you're talking. He's in For All Mankind, which is becoming one of my
Right, For All
favorite
Mankind.
television shows of all
Yeah.
time.
Which I realized that you had revealed that to me last stream. And
Joel
he's
Joel
also
Kinnaman.
in
Joel Kinnaman. He's like a
Joe Kinnaman.
I want to say Swedish actor. He was in The Killing.
You're kidding
I don't know
me?
if you saw The Killing.
No, I don't think so. But he was in Altered Carbon. He was excellent.
Yes,
in that, too.
that's right. He was great in that. Dude's awesome, and he's really good in For All
The
Mankind
RoboCop.
and RoboCop. I honestly, I will say, this is a hot take, everybody. While I didn't
Careful.
like the latest RoboCop, it had the whole like RoboCop reveal in it. The scene where Gary Oldman's like taking him apart to show him that he's not a man anymore. He's a machine.
Yeah.
That shit was so intense, like so brutally visceral and intense. It sticks with me way more than the actual like the original RoboCop, like where they kind of like reveal his face and it's like, oh okay, it's like it's just skin stretched over a thing, okay. But this is like he's just a head and lungs and a heart, and that's it. That's rough. That was rough.
Yeah. I forgot about that scene. No. I listen. I like.
It's like that's it. That's what we are, folks. We are.
Yeah.
We're a brain in a skull, and we're in a flesh mech. I'm sorry to bring the hot takes here on the on the stream, but that's what we are.
Maybe we shouldn't do it. Maybe we shouldn't do RoboCop week.
No, it's all good. I'm I think just to to jump back to like the original RoboCop, the
Yeah.
the fact that the movie is not really, it's not really like a serious movie. It's a comedy.
No.
It's
No. Yeah.
so cool. It's like most people are like, "Oh, that's a weird sci-fi movie." It's like, yeah, but it's mostly a sci-fi comedy.
A really dark comedy. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
incredibly
like
dark.
almost a B movie style of dark, like Splatterhouse kind of like the old school Grindhouse type of stuff. Like it has a Grindhouse flair to it.
It's totally got like Hammer horror aspects to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like when he's there's just like excessive amounts of blood and explosions and
Yeah. Right. When they're killing them, when they're first like, you know, uh, killing them and like the criminals that kill Alex Murphy, and it's like
yeah, yeah.
they're just like over the top.
Well, and like any bullet that hits him, it's like this huge like 5-inch hole and like blood jello is flying out of it. Or like later when that one guy gets killed in his house and he like shoots his knees out and it's just like just all of this blood and shit coming all over the place. It's just yeah, I don't know,
It,
that's super fun and like weird and
yeah.
slapsticky, but also like incredibly violent, which
Oh my god. Yeah.
that's Paul
And
Verhoeven, right? That's
I
just what he
love, but I
does.
just love the designs of it too. It made me think like that. There's that artist who did all that stuff on Nomad Sculpt.
Yeah,
Remember he did the
yeah,
Predator, then he did. I
yeah,
sent you
yeah.
that. I just sent you the right. I just remember him. For those of you who don't know, like Nomad Sculpt is really, it's like ZBrush light but you could do it on the iPad. It's really sweet. You should check it out. It's not even that expensive and it's super powerful. And there's this artist that it does like these like has been doing these tutorials that he sells, but he has these they have these like time lapses of them for free on YouTube. And just Nomad Sculpt RoboCop. If you just search for that, you'll see it. But them going through it made me think about how awesome the design is. Like how
Yeah.
it's really really cool. And I don't know if I really like the design of RoboCop in the
In the new
remake.
one, I didn't either. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
It
there's
wasn't.
something.
They made it too techy. It needed that pulpiness to it. That it was
Yeah,
like even if they had like the silver version of him in the movie was actually pretty good in the new one. But when they made it, it was like, oh,
right,
let's make him
right,
all black, and it's
well,
just like, why not
right,
just keep him like RoboCop? Because you did the
right.
right thing, you did it right, and then they went to the next level, and it's just like,
They went to the next level. Yeah, yeah, I
then you
agree.
didn't, you
That's
fucked it
that's
up.
exactly yeah. Jeez, man, I gotta. It's been a while since I've seen this. I forgot about the silver version. It was totally fine.
Yeah, well, they
Um,
started with it, and it was like a nod, I guess, and then they just totally messed it up by, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, but like modernizing it. I don't. I feel like I would have been way more on board if they'd have just kept it retro, and made
well,
the new movie and made a new movie.
okay. Here's a question for you, because you've been a part of properties that are well loved that have been redesigned,
Yeah,
right?
and yeah, for sure,
And that you've been in that design process,
many
with
times.
Magic. How do you what's the how does it not come off as like, how do you make changes or preserve something, the spirit of it, without it coming off as like disingenuous fan service?
Right, right. I've had to do this a lot in like taking old retro things that everyone loves and facelifting them. And I don't know if I necessarily know like exactly how it was it can be done right, but I know that I know what the win condition is. And the win condition that I'm always shooting for in these situations is I equate it to here's the win condition, then I'll give you the example. The win condition is they see it, like let's say they see RoboCop, the new RoboCop,
Right.
and they don't think it looks any different from the original, but it's hugely different from the original. So that's the win condition. Is that you trick their memory into thinking that what they're seeing looks exactly like what they remember from when they were a kid, but it doesn't actually look anything like it when they if they were to put them side by side. That's the win condition. And
So it's like like an homage, basically, is what you're going for, like a respectful homage.
yeah, but it's also like in that way, but it's also in a way of you're really examining like what shapes made like let's just use the example I use. So I'll get to the example. The example I use is General Kale from Willow. I don't know if you remember this
Mm-hmm.
guy, but he had a big skull mask and he looked super cool. And his armor had like kind of bits of samurai qualities to it, but then it had a lot of medieval stuff on it as well. But the defining factor was he had this crazy white skull mask. And in my head as an adult now, and if I hadn't watched Willow in a long time, I see that and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, he had this super cool looking like gorilla skull, hyper realistic
Right.
gorilla skull mask. And then you go and watch the movie and it's actually this like really cartoony, like Skeletor, the toy cartoon skull mask. So
Wow.
my memory has tricked me into thinking like it's this really hyper realistic, because that's the standard of fantasy these days is really realistic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my brain has tricked me into thinking like that's what it was, and then when I actually go back and see it, it's not that at all. It's actually quite silly looking. So
Right.
and this brings me back to like the win condition of like re-skinning or facelifting old properties. The win condition is to get that same trick, to trick them into thinking that their memory remembers it differently. And it's all a matter of getting like the shapes just right, or the like the overall silhouette the same, but all the fidelity's different. So those are like the things I've played with a whole bunch of times in those kinds of like reworking of old properties.
Yeah, and that's got to be a delicate balance, right? I mean,
It's a fine target, and it does require like the people I've worked with that have worked on it. You know, people like Chris Ron. Like it requires us to really engage our taste level. Like we have a particular aesthetic that we want to see, and we have to basically like superimpose our aesthetic over that old thing.
ah, interesting.
Like I have had to do, I used that General Kale as an example for some like Dominaria stuff that I did for Magic, and it was like I remember this being a really cool skull, so I'm actually going to do the version
Right.
that is a really cool skull mask, and it's
Right.
not going to be the
Right.
really silly one that he's actually wearing in the movie.
Right. Yeah, I just looked him up, and I was kind of horrified. But like, I remember him looking crazy
Right,
badass,
right.
like
Like our memory as a kid, and this is the thing that
super
you're
scary.
capitalizing on
Mhm.
when you're like reworking old properties is you're capitalizing on that like clarity that we think we have of old stuff. Like when I was a kid, I thought that fight at the end of Masters of the Universe between He-Man
I
and
know. I
Skeletor,
was just gonna bring
the
that up.
movie, was amazing. I thought it was like the
Yeah.
coolest, most like
Yeah.
incredibly choreographed combat sequence of like a sword versus a staff. And then I watched
Dude,
it a few years ago and I was like, "Oh my god,
it's, it's
this
even
is like
better.
bad stage
It's
fighting."
even better.
It's
Even
even
better.
better.
Talking about a movie that literally ran out of money, and
Yeah.
they had to shut down all the sets, and they just were in a dark like auditorium or some school auditorium with a bunch of like a smoke machine, basically.
Yeah, dude. That's another one like I kind of want to do that, maybe that fan stuff on the stream, but like that would be a
Dude,
super
yeah,
fun one to mess with, to like how do I facelift He-Man? Because even the He-Man stuff that I've seen lately, it's still like the old He-Man. It
right,
hasn't really been like brought to a modern aesthetic to me.
yeah,
And I've seen some like fan art on ArtStation and stuff that's getting close, but I think I'd have a lot of fun like working on something like that.
because it's not, yeah, because you don't want. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like don't use the shapes from the '80s because it's gonna look old and kind of like half-assed, like not really done well because it was designed for its time,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And that's why like don't bother. This is why I loved Blade Runner the new Blade Runner
100%. Yeah. Go ahead.
because
I can't wait to hear what you say here.
because it made me want to go back because I have the other one. Like, I have the the Ridley Scott version, and after seeing it in the theaters, I was like, oh my god, it's everything. It's Blade Runner. That's Blade Runner right there. That's it. They captured it perfectly. That's the same world.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit like advanced in the future, but it's the same exact world. And then I went back and watched the original Blade Runner. I'm like, this is nothing like what I remembered it. This
Yeah,
is
but they
like
got it. They
this,
hit they
but they
hit
got
that
it.
nostalgia bone. They hit it.
Yeah, just everything from the. I think it was like everything from the lighting, the palette, and I realized like how different the movie was, like aesthetically. I was really shocked of how different it was. Like it didn't feel. It was so different aesthetically when you compared it to when you went back to back, but it felt like what I remembered Blade Runner to be.
Yeah, it was. I always called it like when I walked out of the theaters on that, I was like, I first of all loved it, 100% loved that. But it was also the first time I'd seen a really really faithful reboot, essentially. Like
Yeah,
instead of like, and it wasn't. I wouldn't even call it a reboot. It was just like a super faithful late sequel that wasn't just a complete remake. It was
right.
they like nailed the universe. They advanced the universe. They got but they modernized it, right? They got a new, one of the most cutting edge cinematographers alive. They had him work on it. They had, I think, one of the most cutting edge directors working on it to like take it all to that next level. It's just so heartbreaking that movie was like a critically acclaimed failure, but it's
No,
so amazing.
followed the it followed the original, right?
Yeah. No, I guess that's true. Like they
Yeah.
shouldn't have even expected a blockbuster hit because they
No,
should have expected it to be canned by the critics and then become a cult classic, which I think it will become.
I hope so. I hope so for sure.
It's too
Oh,
good to
before I
not,
forget,
man. It's too good to not.
we've got. Well, I mean, you're preaching to the choir because I think it was. I don't remember the last time I went out of a movie theater, opened my phone, and bought the soundtrack
Oh yeah,
right on the
yeah,
spot.
yeah. I think I
You
got the
know,
art book right away for all the cinematography in it.
because it's like this was. It's like Dune. Dune was like that too. Had that feeling where it was
Same,
like,
yeah.
God, this was made with love. Like this was so finely crafted. It's kind of insane. Like
That's it,
you
right?
really,
It it wasn't made to be a blockbuster hit. It was actually made to be. It reminded me of like Neil Blomkamp, the way he's like, I'm not trying to make something for the vanilla masses, right? I'm just going to make something that is itself its own standalone item, and really care for it.
I, I mean, was it anything? I mean, like, just to circle to bring it back to like Star Wars. Like, was Star Wars really made for the masses when it was first made? I don't think so.
No.
Like,
For some, I mean, Star Wars, I
like
feel like is such a fluke. Like
right,
totally
but it
wasn't.
was like, or even Indiana Jones. Like, it was like these people. These are just people who like Spielberg and Lucas were like, dude, we love the old serials. Let's just make something like that. That's awesome. Like how we remembered it.
Hmm.
But like, right? Because that's what it was. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's like they were. It's how it felt. They made a movie that was how it felt to listen to those serials or watch them on TV. Even though now you go back and they're like the campiest garbage thing ever. Like
Yeah.
you know,
But they're facelifting in the same way, right? Like
right,
Star Wars is facelifting Flash Gordon. It's taking all the things that we liked about Flash Gordon, but it's skinning it with something that, at least in the '70s, was way more acceptable aesthetic.
right,
That like sort of junky space future was more acceptable.
right. Then the sleek kind of like
Yeah, like quasi
whatever.
medieval shit that you saw in
Oh
Flash
yeah,
Gordon,
yeah. Watch your
which I
mouth.
love.
First
Which
of
I
all,
love.
watch your mouth. Second of all, I agree.
No, I love it. Al Williamson is a god, and I love all
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I mean, I love any incarnation of Flash Gordon, but it's
So
like
we
Star Wars took it to the next level. like the
Of
next level.
course. So before I forget, we got some first time chats.
Oh yeah,
Daddy
yeah.
Blue Eyes, hello.
Hey,
And
welcome.
Wild Will the Beast. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
This is
thanks for
awesome.
swinging in, everyone.
Let's see, Monkey House said there's an analog in comic books with the generational passing of the mantle requiring the need to hit familiar notes while creating something new. Yeah, 100%. That's the like. I think in comics, I think what we're seeing with the like, with like even the MCU now going into its next phase, like they're gonna get to a point where they're probably gonna have to do remakes, right? Like maybe
Oh,
not now, but
100%.
eventually.
Yeah, I think they will
So
because they're stuck in that like how do we get all the fans to watch all these 20 movies?
right, and like you can expand it like they're doing, and I think they're going aesthetically in a completely different direction. Like they're making it a lot more lighthearted and not as serious. I mean, like you know, I saw the latest Thor and stuff, and like I'm sure people are like, "Boy, this was dumb," but for me, it was like, okay, I get what they're doing. It's just a lot of fun. Let's just go back to when comics were a lot of fun, that sort of thing, and maybe that's gonna get a new fan base or something like that. You know,
Dude,
they're
that
doing they're throwing a lot at it. They're doing
yeah.
everything they can. You know,
Let's talk about that for a
but
sec though, because like I liked the latest Thor. You just said you liked
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Um,
I did.
and
Yeah,
I love Taika's anything he does, anything that guy does, I'm there. Like I love everything Taika does. But why did that movie get canned so bad? I don't get
I
why.
think because it it wasn't it wasn't like it was Taika was a little bit off. Like he was let off the leash to let his actors do like improv a little bit more, and so it wasn't as tight. I think the writing as like I felt as Ragnarok, and it wasn't tied to a specific timeline either. So it was just kind of like an adventure, and so some people might have felt that it was like a little bit more like disrespectful to the source material, you know, but like in a sense of like, oh, these people are like Thor's just being a crazy person and letting people their entire worlds be destroyed, and he's just like oblivious. But like
Yeah, but in the
depends on
comics,
the
he has
Thor
like
that
dance offs and weird shit. It's like
yeah, so like it depends on the Thor that you like because it's actually so we had talked about this like years ago because people used to say like, well, that's not Thor or my Thor, or like that's not my Captain America, and it's like, or that's not my Spider Man, and my answer is like, which one? Because they're
yeah,
like, or Batman. That was the big thing with Batman. Like I was you know a fan of Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, and I will forever remain a fan of that film. But like people say, well, that's not Batman, and I'm thinking like, are you kidding me? Like, which Batman are you talking about?
yeah, I
Because
love
everything's like
that,
Frank
dude.
Miller oriented, but like which Batman? Because he's super goofy in one instance and super serious, and then like super weird.
Well, and this idea like, oh,
Uh,
Batman doesn't kill, and that's why like Zack Snyder's Batman and Batman vs Superman is bad because he's killing people. And it's like that's not even a rule. That was like a recently invented rule. Like Batman
yes,
carried a gun around originally, so
yeah, yeah.
that's like not a critique.
It's not a
it's
critique.
not a good
Yeah.
argument.
So it's but I get it. Like it's if it doesn't hit it right, it doesn't hit it right though. It's you have to kind of be careful with it though too, right? Because it's not that far off from like what you know it wasn't far removed from what the Christian Bale movies were, and those were so well done, in my opinion. Except for the last one, at least the first two were like
Yeah,
incredible. Especially
first
the
two are
second
great.
one was a
First two are
damn
great.
masterpiece, right? And so you have that to live up to, and then they kind of shifted into this like MCU type of structure, which they kind of rushed, and you got what you got, so you change the aesthetic really quickly, and it's like you were saying, like you just got to be really careful, like you're just to preserve the things that people love about it. They took a risk, but I
Yeah,
don't know. It's tough. I'm just happy that people are into this stuff because I remember a time where people weren't, and
yeah, where
so
where Hollywood couldn't make a fucking comic book movie to save their life.
no,
But I think I agree with you. I think the major problem that I think the audience has had is the tone for the MCU has been very serious, right? Like characters that break into comic relief pretty often and make quippy stuff and are fun and swashbuckler. You know, they're like Han Solo like characters.
right.
But then the
Which
subject matter
I like
is
the solo
really
movie.
intense. Yeah, no, I like the
I
solo
like,
movie too. But I mean, like,
but it should have been. I bet you it would have been better if it weren't a Star Wars movie.
oh no, I long thought that it should have been. It shouldn't even have been about a Han Solo. It should have been
No,
Jim
should have been
Spaceman and his
sure.
swashbucklery buddies. Like that's what it should have been.
Right. It should. That's what it should have been. You know.
But I mean,
Um,
my point was with the MCU was that and Thor is that everyone is expecting this really deep, intense, like very serious Thanos theme, and then Thor is not intense and serious anymore. It's fun
right.
and campy, and I don't know. I think maybe that's why people were like, "Ugh, I don't get it."
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, it was a, I think even for Taika, it was a bit of a sloppy. It felt pretty sloppy at points, you know, where it
Oh,
was
sure,
like,
sure, but you know,
you
whatever.
know,
It's like
but
silly, right? It's
yeah,
but it's not
it
meant
was
to be a
fun. It was
clean.
fun, right? It wasn't. So they leaned into it, you know, like kind of in the same way like Iron Man 3 was, you know, was like it was like, you know, we got this you know, let's just keep these people happy, and
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it's a lot of trust in that, and
I mean, Iron Man 3 had Guy Pearce going for it, so get that.
good Guy Pierce, man. It was uh, your boy from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the director. Oh my God, why am I
Yeah, yeah,
blanking?
yeah. The guy from
Oh,
um, Shane Black from
Shane Black.
Predator. Yeah,
Yeah,
from Predator.
actor director, actor director. You know, but yeah, man. You know, I don't know. The narrative of movies is really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this as like I've been playing more video games about, you know, this is something that actually I would love Kate's input on because it's like I think as you know, when I was growing up, when we were growing up, we saw like people were saying like, you know, the big thing with video games was making more money. They realized that it was making more money than Hollywood. And now it's like the narrative stories and things like that, like how to tell narratives has completely shifted. And now I'm thinking like with new technologies coming out because I think are going to just change everything. Like, will there be the actual merge that we thought, you know, would be? Because people imagined a future where, you know, storytelling was like, you know, people were more acceptive of like video games as the primary narrative deliverer, you know?
I
I don't know
feel
if that
like
makes any sense. Where it's
I
active
think you're
versus
right though.
passive.
I think stuff like The Last of Us, stuff that like Naughty Dog does,
Right.
like that is such a it's long been like The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2 have long been one of my favorite storytelling experiences. And I
Yeah, I've
think
never
that's going to
played them.
become a huge thing like where it's a movie
Right.
and you get to play the movie. Like that not just sit and
Yeah.
watch it. You get to be in the movie.
You get to be in the movie. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
time I felt that was Metal Gear Solid, the original
Right.
one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, and like I really felt like I was in a movie. Yeah. And like, and now that they sort of a lot of the big movies are kind of do that. Like big video games have those like basically scripted events. Like you had Uncharted do that, and like you know,
Right, right.
it's a little bit more passive. It's not as active, and that's a style you know that's really popular. But I wonder if that's slowly but surely going to kind of be the predominant means of experiencing that stuff. I'm not sure. You know, it's like there's always a. I think there's always going to be space for people to be sitting back and be completely passive. For like, tell me a story. Just like the old school since the beginning of time. Uh, but I wonder if that's going to be more passe, if any, because you think of the technologies that are, what are the technologies in movies trying to do? They're trying to make them like 3D, or they're trying to make them more immersive, right? And they've, the sound what THX does, like you're feeling like you're in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and video games are that other end of it. And I wonder, when they have this merge with, these wearable technologies, I wonder how that's going to change storytelling. You know, um,
I think it'll be pretty big. I think it'll be huge, but I also think it'll be audience specific, right? Like not everyone likes The Last of Us because it's a movie. It's not really a video game, right? It's
right,
whereas people who are more, some people's video game tastes are more like they actually want a game out of it. They want the game aspect. They don't want to just sit and play a movie. They want some strategy and all this other stuff. So
right.
I think it'll become niche, but I think it will become like a major way of like cinema, blending cinema and video games. Like there's going to be more of
Th-
that because there's such a huge audience for it in that specific situation.
right. And it's not. It's just like other movies where, like, some people hate popcorn flicks because they don't challenge you.
Yeah.
They're enough, and like, and I get that. Like I like, yeah, yeah. I have a taste for, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a spot for everything, and it's going to be a little bit more, like a niche. It's definitely very interesting. It's really really interesting to see, and I wonder where it kind of like, because I was thinking about like, AI art now. Like you have, it's 2D, but now you can. I'm sure there's going to be AI that's, and you can kind of do it now. It's generative, like it generates 3D assets, and so like, who's to say that you can't randomize that, and you can't tell a story that's completely immersive like that,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
so you could expand your scope. Like there's going to be things that we would have never thought was possible. Kind of like the fight scene in Avengers, like, Infinity War. It's like no one, like, we freaking like, maybe Lord of the Rings. Before Lord of the Rings, I would argue, like when I saw, like, the for Frodo, or like, Two Towers, like,
Mm-hmm.
or even just the size of those, the scales of those fights, that I was like, I have that's like, I never thought that this would be possible.
Yeah, it hadn't really been
And
done. Like it was the
no,
first time it had really been done.
and what did they have to do? They had to create an AI and
Yeah.
train it to learn how to fight itself.
The massive, what
Um,
is that what they called it? Massive? I forget what they called it, but
yeah, massive or something like that. Yeah, but it was a video game engine basically, right? When you think about it,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
they
it's like NPCs running around fighting each other.
exactly. And so, what's the next evolution of that?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
I honestly I think it's like the immersive, like you're talking about immersive games, right?
right,
I think it might even like granted there's going to be a lot of offshoots that are like The Last of Us and they're more like storytelling movies, but there's a huge amount of people that like um open world games like, Breath of the Wild or any of
right.
the
Where you're
crazy open
creating
world
your
games.
own narrative. You're creating your
Right.
own narrative.
Yeah, and if you can get the AI to randomize well enough and create NPCs and all that stuff, even procedurally generate maps that feel right, then you have this like crazy organic, like never going to be like no play experience is going to be the same because it's so amazingly procedurally generated.
Exactly. And that's why people love, this is why Twitch exists, right? And people love watching other people play, like, battle royale games, because that's what really it is. It's human driven, but it's randomly generated experiences, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't
Mm-hmm.
know who you're going to get into a lobby with, and the excitement of like what could happen next is thrilling to watch. And so you could be completely passive watching somebody play a video game That's for free. So you could do yourself, but you'd rather watch them play
Yeah,
because
that's
of how
the
they're creating those narratives.
yeah, 100%. I watch a AZ streamer, Running Man's on Twitch all the time, and it's because of that, right? It's like I just want to watch the amazing randomized adventures that come out of DayZ. And I want to play it too, but a lot of the times I just want to watch his adventure.
Right. That's weird. It's a it's a weird world we live in, right? It's a crazy place. Like who'd have
Yeah,
thought, right?
it's kind of like a cool way of, I don't know. It's like I think watching people play video games is like watching people write stories, but they're not like actively there creating it, right? They're playing in the space that was created by the game devs,
Right.
but they're
But they're a
telling a
character
story still.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're still telling a
They're
story.
yeah. It's like watching an actor read a book or recite a read a book that or that they didn't write themselves or something like they're an act. They're acting. It's like a meta thing.
Yeah, that's
Like a character in
dude.
a movie acting about.
That's good. I hadn't even thought of that analogy, but it is that, right? It's like the game dev, of, let's say the game dev is William Shakespeare, and his game is, the rule set is the plays that he wrote, and an actor can play that game by being a participant in that world.
Right. Which is why I think like so many artists love playing in the MCU, like as comic book artists.
Yeah, right, because all the rules are set. They know the characters. They know what they look like. They can add their style to them. Yeah, that's it. That's a great way to put it.
That's it. Episode 20, man. We're
We figured it
bringing
out. We figured it
the
out.
heat. Figured it out. Took us 3 seasons, 20
We'll just cut it
episodes.
early. We got an hour left. We'll just cut it early. Let's cut it early. We did it.
Call it. Yeah, Jim. Yeah, Star Wars Jim Spaceman story. Yeah, basically. Um, Dude,
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't take
it's
credit for that. I think that was Mike on
uh,
Red Letter Media.
oh really? Well, I take all mine.
He said
And
something like
anything
that.
clever I say, anything clever I say, it's pretty much, from him. But that I was thinking a lot. So I was thinking a lot about that with Cyberpunk because I still haven't played it yet, right? And so I'm like, that's why I think the game is interesting to me because it's first person, but it's like it looks like it's pretty immersive when it comes to side quests and things like that.
Yeah, it's like Grand Theft Auto, but I think there's even more going on in it.
Right, and that's why Grand Theft Auto 5 is still being played today, and like
Yeah, it's
people have
awesome.
their own servers. And did you see like the big thing is Grand Theft Auto role play? Have you
Oh,
checked? Have
really?
you noticed this,
No,
dude?
no.
So like, or even like places like games like Rust. You ever heard of Rust?
Yeah, so Rust is a lot like DayZ. Like if people like DayZ, they'll like Rust, and I love DayZ.
Okay,
But I've played a little bit of Rust, and it's like a little too granular for me. Like
right, because you
the
just
the survival
end up
feature is
naked.
like
Yeah,
really crazy.
you're naked, right? You start off naked, and you pick up a rock and you're fighting off.
Yeah,
I've
which
watched
is
people play it.
DayZ's a lot like that too, but it's game designed in such a way that these are like mechanics that you play. Whereas Rust felt like way too granular in that like everything was like you got to go pee and you got to go
Yeah,
all of that. It's
yeah,
almost like this has gone beyond
yeah, yeah.
mechanics and like
Right.
systems, and it's now just like go. I could go out into the wilderness, I guess, and do
Right.
this
If
right
I
now.
wanted to, yeah, if I wanted to live like a prehistoric human, I would just go do that in a post-apocalyptic environment.
Yeah.
But like, um, oh, what was I gonna say? Crap. What was the point that I was trying to make? He threw me off.
Sorry, man. Sorry. I interrupted you.
Rust. I was like Cyberpunk. I don't remember now.
Great.
Just great.
Just great.
Yeah, I don't remember. I was gonna say something.
Well,
Um,
it's all good. It's all good.
well,
We can change subjects. We can change it up.
well, um, I'm just like now. I'm wondering. So so now I'm looking at actually, does anybody? You said you hadn't played it, right?
Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
No, but I finally got a PlayStation 5, and that was like the first thing. Kate and
So
I were looking at all the games, and we were like, "This is it. This is it. This is what we're getting."
yeah, I
Um,
hear the expansion's not bad. The Edge Run, Monkey Owl said, yeah. Have you ever watched a Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime?
I hear it's great.
No,
I hear it's great.
but my cousin just texted me. He's a big anime fan, and he knows that I love Cowboy Bebop, and um, he was like, "You got to watch this, man. It's really good."
Yeah, we
And
started
so,
it the other
and
night,
I
and
trust his
it had some
taste.
cool stuff. I only saw like part of an
So,
episode, but
so like you. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, Grand Theft Auto has just like Rust. They have these mods now where like people are going in and have their own servers, and they're just like, there's a Star Wars mod for Rust.
no way. That's
And
cool.
someone built like it's super rudiment. It's like in a Rust engine, which is not all that like visually impactful, right? I mean, it's an older game, I get it, and the maps are huge. So they have. I saw someone going through, and people are playing the role of like, okay, a cop, like pulling you over, or like a certain
Yeah.
like lieutenant and things like. They're literally playing the role, and
Oh
like
wow. So you
they
get to
have
be the NPCs.
right, and they have like a Half Life mod for it. I think it's one of them. I'm like maybe jumbling it up, but like there are people that like using. There's one that uses the Half Life engine, I think, and you can get put in jail, and you see a judge
Oh wow.
and go on time. I mean, it's like legit. It's like wow. It's you have to, and so there are YouTubers that go on. They just troll and get kicked off these servers, um, because they break in the rules of the society. But there's these like digital societies that get kind of that are created.
That's like Second Life shit right there.
It is. It is. It really is. And
That's fascinating. I mean, I
so,
guess people want that escapism, so that's all good. It's all good.
well, like, yeah, I watched someone. I didn't know what it was in Twitch. Like, it was a couple of years ago when I first started watching Twitch. I was like, what is Grand Theft Auto RP? And I didn't know it meant role play.
All
And I was
role
watching
play.
um, the streamer Summit 1G, who's like well known for like Counter Strike, and then that's how he made his fame. And he did a bunch of other stuff. But he was playing. I was like, I was used to watching him play Valorant. No, Valorant wasn't out at the time. Maybe Warzone or no, PUBG. That's what it was. He was playing PUBG, and I checked on the stream. He was playing Grand Theft Auto RP, and he was like in a place ordering at a convenience store, ordering something. Or like
That's like
ask,
San
like he was like
Andreas, man. Like
bartering.
you remember San Andreas? That
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
where
It
you
was
had to like
basically
work
that. I'm like,
out and you had to eat and
you had to eat and all that stuff, right? But he was doing that, and he had like he changed up his accent like on stream. He was like
oh
at the
yeah, yeah,
southern. I'm
yeah.
like, what is going
People do
on
that,
here?
dude.
Like,
So people do that in DayZ as well, where like they when they get on the mic, they're playing, they're role playing, so they're pretending to be a
right?
different kind of character. That's cool stuff.
It is, and it's interesting. Like, man, you know, I guess it's storytelling. It's an active. It could be active or passive, but like these are, it's sort of the meeting of like this is the platform and the tools that people can use to tell their own stories, just for their entertainment. And
Yeah, it's I mean it's essentially like
you know,
blending what's done with tabletop like D&D. It's blending that into and I think we're going to see way more of it. But it's taking the things that you can do in D&D and adding them to video game systems.
exactly. That's exactly what it is, and it's what it's what people were imagining themselves in, or a version of that, what people were imagining when they're maybe playing D&D, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's
But
that like total freedom.
at the same time, people still play D&D because it's not though. At the same time, it's not exactly what they would do. Uh, it's like they're creating a mod of their own custom. Like D&D is kind of the modding tools, basically. That's
Yeah.
what it is, and they're creating their own thing. you know, and so it's like everything's custom to that, and it's a really cheap way of doing it. You don't have to learn programming language or anything like that. And I wonder because Cyberpunk has that they released a modding tool themselves, and so people are going to
Right.
start modding the hell out of Cyberpunk, and I'm like, wow, you know, like it's got an engine that it can handle large groups of people and things like that. I'm like, I'm interested to see what people are going to do with it, you know, if they do anything. But it really does like, you know, increase the longevity of the game. I mean, people start playing GTA 5. I mean, how old is that freaking game, right? I
I
mean,
love that. I love that though, man. It's like it's the same with that like DayZ game that I play.
but DayZ, right? How old is
It's
DayZ?
it came out when we the standalone came out when we were in art school, dude.
Oh my God, is it
Yeah,
really that old?
it's that old, and it's still
Wow.
going, and the devs are still working on it. Like it's fun stuff, and there's a ton of games like that though that are still Eve's still
Oh
going.
yeah, yeah. Eva's still going. Yep. Uh, Counter Strike, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of
The
stuff.
Valve, yeah,
You know, but yeah, Valve, yeah. Which actually Counter Strike was a mod. Do you remember that
yeah. I
in
mean, it
college?
was
Yeah,
a Half Life mod,
Half Life mod. Yeah,
which was funny because
freaking
it
Half.
eventually came. I when I worked at Valve for a little bit, there was a lot of people working on that on CS:GO. Like that was a huge part of the company worked on that.
Wow, go figure, right? They were just
Still
this
do.
like little team, you know, that ended up, you know, being bought out by being hired by Valve to work on, you know, continue working on Counter Strike. It was just this team of people. That, and I remember downloading the. I was like when they first inherited that, like hired that team. I remember they had a standalone Counter Strike
Yeah,
disc that came out, and my friends were like, "What the hell is that thing?" Because they were used to having Half Life and then installing the mod. And I was like, "Oh, this is the standalone Counter Strike thing." It was like, "So does it have Half Life?" I'm like, "No, it doesn't. You know,
it's just Counter Strike. Yeah,
it's just Counter Strike." You know, he's like, "That's so weird."
played so much of that in school, undergrad.
Yeah, yeah, I played a good amount of it. That and Unreal Tournament. I'm just
Dude, hell yeah.
age, you know, just aging myself there.
Okay, nobody
But
cares. Nobody cares.
I know nobody cares. Uh, yeah, so it was okay. I played Cyberpunk through the Xbox once. I can finally get the Series X. It's a lot of fun, but it does have some pain points in terms of story and world. Pretty though. Okay, is what Monkey House says.
Oh yeah. Hey, sometimes
Wolvie
pretty
Chop
is.
says Cowboy Bebop's the best anime show ever. Ray for the win. Yeah, I
Oh
agree.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that it's good.
I agree with the Ray for the win one too. Did you read that,
Yeah, I don't
Tyler?
know if I agree with that part,
You
but
read that?
I can't read too fast. So hold on.
Can't
Oh, we do
read.
have a question though.
Oh, we do. Okay.
See, from Gib Santos. I'm trying to give my digital work a more traditional look, but I feel I always end up rendering more than I should. Do you guys have any tips on controlling the impulse of clarifying and describing describing detail on the painting? Um, I do. I have tips for that. My approach is I use less brushes and try not to zoom in as much. Um, that can help you from getting a little too like over rendering, right? So like I'm pretty zoomed out on this sketch that I'm doing here. But like I could zoom way in and like render like crazy on this little area right here. But you would never do that. You couldn't do that on a traditional piece, right? You couldn't do it. There's a certain amount of zoom you can do on a physical painting. Um, so I try to not do that. I wish that this is actually a feature. I'm glad you brought this up, Gibbs, because this is actually a feature that I wish Photoshop had, and it would be to lock your zoom so that you can't zoom in farther than, let's say, like if I couldn't zoom in farther than this, I'd be really happy. If I could lock it at 50%, I'd be really happy. Um, just so that while I'm doing regular painting, I can't go beyond that. And then when I want to go beyond it, I can turn the lock off. But that helps me to stay loose and a bit more painterly is if I don't zoom in as much, because you can. It's really easy to like zoom in on an ear if you're painting a figure, and then paint on the ear for hours and get this perfect like photorealistic ear, and then you zoom out and everything else isn't to the same fidelity. Um, it's really easy to do that. So I try to make sure like if a character is a certain size on the image, like let's say if this guy didn't have a helmet on, let's say he's a guy, I don't really know what he is right now, it's amorphous shape, but if he was a guy and he had an ear, I wouldn't zoom in more than, like this is probably too much. I'd probably stay here and I'd paint the ear from here in as few strokes as possible. And that would help me stay more painterly and loose and traditional looking. So try that out. Use less brushes, try and find like a feathery brush like this one that I have. See how it's kind of like feathery. I got this from a friend of mine, Kieran Yanner.
You're in.
He uses this like all the time on his paintings. He's really good with it.
Oh, really?
I'm still kind of learning how to use this brush. But like get something funky like this. You can even make one really quick. And pardon me, still getting COVID, but I'm a lot better. And just use this one brush. Think about it. Like if you want to feel more painterly digitally, think about when you're painting traditionally, most of the time you're using a brush of different sizes, right? You're using like a filbert of various sizes, which means you're just sizing one brush up and down. So like, you'll see a lot of artists use tons of different brushes, but you don't really need all those different brushes. You just need one or two. Sometimes I like this one, and I've been using it lately just to get like, this one I just mentioned, just to get kind of like a funky, feathery one. Try and paint a whole piece of that. I've tried to paint a whole piece with this one, this like scattery brush that I got from an artist, Sergei Kolosov, who's just a phenomenal concept artist. Man. But it's just like this weird brush. It's not like a tight brush, right? It doesn't let you get tight. Like you can, even when you go really small, it's still pretty scattery. But just try to paint a whole piece with that. I guarantee it. If you can find a scattery brush like that and paint a whole painting, it's going to look really painterly. Yeah. It's not going to look too tight.
Because you have to kind of hack. You have to have a lot of brushes if you want to get super high fidelity, like even like minuscule detail, like a hyper photorealist,
Yeah.
But if you want like a traditional, what's considered traditional now, like the tools, like a number 6 or number 2 brush really isn't gonna. There's a certain point where the brush it won't make that. It can only make so small of a mark. And it generates random textures, and that's what that feathery brush kind of does. It doesn't have really control over it, and it takes years to kind of be okay with the fact that you're like understand how to control the taper of a brush and things like that, but also be okay with the randomness that you might get and work with that. Whereas like digital, I can go in, like here, on my reference, and then just like pick I know this is not like pick a brush like this, and then just smooth everything out like an airbrush,
Yeah.
And you're going to get a mechanical feel like that, for sure. But you know what? So did, that's why airbrushes, artists didn't like using them after a certain point because it was too mechanical, and so there were other artists that were able to use it though and make it look a little bit more livelier and natural, and so we're basically just talking about the same exact thing, and how they did it was, not getting too nuanced and not like masking off everything so perfectly, letting some overspray happening, like letting that randomness come through, and working with what you have and responding to the surface, and and working a lot further away, because I think what you said, Tyler, was so on point with the the fact that a physical piece can only have so much fidelity.
Yeah, it's like you can only go so far in. I mean, another thing just to add to that, what Ray was saying, is you can go in, like, let's say you have a brush, like even Ray's working with a really rough brush, a digital
Oh yeah,
brush.
Super Rush. Yeah.
It's like a rough, gritty brush, right? Because it keeps you from getting too laser precise with your rendering, because you don't want to go that detailed, and you want to have that looser feel. And you can get that even in Photoshop. You can get that even within the brush itself. So if you go into your brush settings and you go down to color dynamic, like play around with those if you're trying to find more painterly stuff. Like check this out. Like I've turned on the jitter, the hue jitter, just the hue jitter, and you get all this. I don't know if you can see it well on the stream, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll make it really extreme. You see all this noise you can get. This is a great digital function, like digital feature, because now I don't have to worry about making sure everything's tight. I can get all this organic noise just by painting this way, and that I can block in stuff that way, and then I can turn the color dynamic off and be more, be more intentional with the colors that I want to pick and use. But then you get this nice grittiness and nice bit of noise and texture that you would in an organic painting environment. With like if you're working with oil paints and stuff, you get all kinds of textures coming through that are really nice. You can recreate that with the hue saturation jitter in the color dynamic. So play around with that kind of stuff.
I think playing around with also just traditional media in general, I think a little bit more and getting used to that uh, helps a lot too, because it's kind of what you're trying to emulate. Like you're trying to get those features in. So I'm moving my hand now like I would if I had a brush, for the most part, like making like the sweep of my arm and sweep of my wrist, thinking like how I would sort of paint something in. Like it's not an effect; it's just me trying to paint. I don't know if that makes any sense. That
No,
makes
it
sense.
does. Like I'll
Like
hold it up in the camera. Like I try not to draw like I'm with a pencil, like, or like like how you would write. Like most people write like this, like with a pen. They write like that. I try not to work that way on my screen. I try to hold it like a little farther back, so I'm like a little bit looser with it, because that's how I paint with a paintbrush.
right.
So I don't always do like that. Like when I'm really getting fiddly, I'll move in like a pen, but I try to paint more loose, and hold it farther back. In fact, I wish Wacom would make much longer stylus like a paintbrush.
That'd be cool.
I think it'd be pretty neat. Here's another little trick that I'll reveal that I use all the time. See this texture that I have here, folks, in the chat? This is just like a gesso board that I gessoed and I scanned, and I made it. I think I just put like an overlay of gray over it, or multiply of gray, to make
Tyler,
it
you're
like,
giving all the secrets away, man.
this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Maybe people can
This
use
is
this.
really good stuff.
So what
Oh
you can
yeah.
do is, and I think I got this from Ava Wilderman, I think, because she had these really cool drawings, and they looked like they were on watercolor paper, but they looked really like amazing. And I was like, these have to be digital, just from the quality of line that I'm seeing. Like this can't be traditional. And I
Right.
asked her about it. She's like, oh yeah, it's a watercolor paper texture that she applies over the piece. So this is what I do: is I take this entire thing, I select this whole thing, and then I paste it in over the top of this painting, right? And we'll adjust it to fit this. So the whole thing's gray, right? The whole texture is covering the whole piece now. And it's like, oh, what am I going to do with that? So what I do is then I go down to high pass. So if you go to filters, I wish you could see my menus, but you can't. I'm not sure how to make it do that. But anyways, you go to filters and then down to other and then high pass. And high pass basically is neutralizing it so that you don't have as much. It's basically making an even gray, and you can change
It's
the
almost like a
radius.
bump map. It's almost like a
Yeah,
bump.
yeah, it's like a bump map. So it's basically reducing the intensity of value shift. It's basically a middle gray, a perfect middle gray, but it's letting you keep the texture there with like little bits of value shift, and you can change that up and down with the radius. But you can see, like when you zoom way in, you can see I still have a bit of texture there, but it's a middle gray, which means when it's a perfect middle gray, you can go to soft light, and it doesn't change. It's not changing the value of this image in the slightest. All it's doing is applying that texture over everything. And I almost every painting I've ever done, digital painting, I put this in at the end, and then I bring it down to like 20%, so that I just have a little bit of noise over everything, so that it doesn't look so mechanical.
I'm actually
Photoshop
gonna do
just
that.
sometimes just looks really mechanical. And you can, if you want, like what I like to do with this is I'll duplicate the layer a bunch sometimes. It's like if I want only my shadows to have tons of texture, I will I will mask this off, and I'll just paint it back into this texture. I'll just paint this texture back into the shadows. So that I'll get like a nice, really, the shadows will start to look more transparent. But yeah, like looks like Ray's gonna try and put some of that texture over his piece right now.
I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah, I totally see it. So it adds that just little bit of fidelity to it. And you can make it as noisy as you want, as quiet as you want. You can make it, like most of the time I make it so that if I'm doing like a magic card, you're never going to see it on the magic card at 2 inches, right? You're never going to see it, this texture. But when I make a big print of it, then you see that texture, and it gives it just the smidge of being an original, like traditional piece of art. And it's a fun little like Photoshop hack. So try that out. It's pretty cool. Let's see. We
Yeah,
got
I used to like doing it a lot in like in between layers for me, because then it looks like there's a lot of layers on top of it, like the way paint would work, where it like picks up, it skips the layer, like the paint's skipping over
yeah,
the
dude.
layer of like the previous paint.
100%. I totally use it that way too, where I'll have like this, like, and I'll make it really loud, like and and then I'll paint over that, right? And it looks
Right.
like paint on top of it. But then
Exactly.
I'll duplicate the texture and put it back on top, and then make it
Right.
really, really like, 20%. So it still
Exactly.
comes
Yep.
through those marks just a little bit, but not as much.
Right. Just a
And
little bit, not as much. Yep.
it adds dimensionality to it. So that's a fun little hack. Let's see. Oh, okay. Wild Will to Beast. Yeah, I do remember you. I think so. Yeah, we did like I think we talked about your portfolio a little bit. It was yeah, it was great chatting with you at PAX, man. Oh, sorry, I'm reading more questions. Okay, we got another one from Wolvie
No,
Chops.
yeah.
So with the texture brush, noise, etc., do you add these only for final pieces, or do they help sell concept studies and stuff? I use them in concepts as well, like just because, um, especially if it's like a mood piece or something I'm working on. The noise is just a nice way to fill in an area, right? Like let's say you
Right.
want a cloak, and you want to get the vibe of like the cloak's not just flat green, it actually has some texture in it. Well, I just make a noisy brush, and then you just brush the cloak in with one paint stroke, but it's got a ton of noise on it, a ton of texture, and then you're there. I'll use this as well, like this this layer texture effect. You can get all kinds of textures off the internet for all kinds of stuff. I used to do it for chainmail, but I ended up making a chainmail brush, which ended up being way more effective than actually getting chainmail texture, because chainmail texture is flat, and by making an actual brush, you can brush it and wrap it around stuff. Anyways, I'm
And we used
rambling.
to do all this stuff traditionally, though. So we're thinking like, that comes from like the texture of a board coming through. Like the thing that Tyler was talking about, it was conceptualized previously, like because we did it traditionally. Like we would do that with gesso when we would prime a board. We would do it, add a specific type of texture and try and preserve that as it came through. Uh, and there are
Totally.
ways of like layering transparent, maybe like matte medium over that or gel medium on top of those areas, and then building up a texture so it feels like that noise. Does a great job at like giving the illusion of information, like a lot of like detail, but really it isn't. It's just texture. And you know, we study people like Drew Struzan who would do that all the time. Everybody calls him a photorealist. He's really not. Like he's just, his stuff has a ton of texture, so it looks like he's getting the texture of skin down or something, or like
Film
the
grit.
Hellboy that the
Yeah.
film grit. Yeah, exactly. But it really it's just his understanding and use of texture on top of just really solid drawing, of course.
That's what I'm glad you brought it up. That was the thing I was going to mention is like we did that all intentionally, and that's what Strussen's doing too. Like when he wants like a sunburst, he does like a circular pattern of brush strokes in the gesso under everything. Like he plans that
Right.
area out. I'll do it when I'm doing a traditional painting and I'm painting over, like, let's say I print my sketch out and I mount that. I'll do clear matte medium in the same way, and I'll do like tons of texture in an area where I want to be really textured. And the reason why I'm doing it digitally here with these texture layers is usually when Ray and I were painting a lot in school, we were taught like to make our shadows as transparent as we can, like really thin transparent paint. And
Yeah.
so I like to do that in the shadows because I want to get that feeling of transparency where there's a lot, you can see a lot more texture in the shadows than you can in the on the side. It's like Jacob Collins paintings. When you look at all of his
Right.
shadows, they're almost
It's almost like a
100%
board.
transparent. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the light
And
side is actually really opaque. So it's trying to simulate that digitally. So it's just using all the tools that we have available to us digitally to get that feeling of the things that we're familiar painting with.
right, exactly. Painting wise, you don't want thick paint in the shadows because what happens is it catches the light. Uh, those strokes catch the light, and so they make the value look a lot more lighter than it actually is. So that's why, if you ever heard like shadows thin, lights thick, that's the reason why.
Dude,
It's to
nothing was made more clear to me on that concept than when I saw Norman Rockwell paintings in person. His
right, yeah, because
his
his
whites
shadows are
are
super thick,
yeah,
fucking
his
lights.
lights, right? His whites are
Yeah,
like fat. Like he lays it on so fat. It's like Rembrandt
yeah,
thick.
yeah.
Which I assume, he probably got from looking at Rembrandt paintings. And it's so effective. It's such a really wonderful approach to add dimensionality to your lights.
Yeah, you can get that like it's like a relief. It's a really interesting, way of of getting that effect. Like his Four
Yeah.
Freedoms one, like the Thanksgiving piece, like you could see like most of the figures are in shadow, and like the front, it's like the like the grandmother character or the who's putting the turkey down, like her face is so thinly painted.
Mm-hmm.
You could see all of the texture of the canvas, uh, and the back the window is so thickly painted behind her,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and it's this really incredible relief, when you see it in real life.
That's such a killer piece.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he definitely did. And he's so methodically planned it all out, and it's just a
Oh my
great
God,
thing to look
yeah,
at.
sealing every layer with shellac,
Yeah.
so he could, if he messed up, he could always just take turpentine and just scrub out the paint piece, that layer out. I mean, the dude was super planned. All this stuff is designed.
Yeah, it's
My
good to
still
it's
favorite all time designer is J.C. Linedecker, though. Norman
yeah.
Rockwell's hero. Like Rockwell probably got that acumen from just like also just his teachers and also the people he hung out with. Like Linedecker was, I mean, talk about planned out. I mean, every freaking stroke was planned out.
Yeah, I mean, what he would do, like, life, he would get models in, right? And paint them but like paint every possible pose before he did the actual painting.
Right.
You can
And
see
design it.
his, yeah, he
Design
designed everything.
yeah. So basically, what I want, this is what I'm doing. So hopefully it'll look like a line decker. No. Yeah, I got to remind myself. It's like, oh, well, Linedecker did that, and he copied every freaking stroke. Like that's it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's like
like
it. It's sort of, I don't know. It's like how far do you want to go with it, right? Like
right.
you could practice the painting, which is what he was doing forever.
It's what I'm doing too. Like I'm practicing the painting. What's
Yeah.
yeah.
At some point, right? You got to
I like
paint the painting.
yeah. At some point, you paint the painting, and I know when I'm ready. Like I want to have the painting. Like painting like this is so enjoyable for me because I know like I could just have fun and I know everything's gonna work out for the most part.
Yeah.
Or
When
at
do you
least like
know? What, like, do you know? Like, how do you know when you're ready to move on to the next one?
when I know like like I'm gonna put these labels in and paint around, just push the paint around a little bit more with this, like put the information and that texture in because I think it's really nice. But I need the base in there, and then once I'm good to go on that and see what the readability is, I'll tighten up whatever I need to tighten up, and then I will go into the actual painting.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can like control my edges and things like that. Like I want better edge control in my pieces, and you know, like this right here, that's staying. Like I'm gonna do this with a huge brush when I place this in, and it's gonna look like I just like woke up in the morning in my like silk silk uh, uh, bedroom robe, and
Mm-hmm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
with my slippers, leather slippers, and just with my huge pipe, long pipe, and just dash it in, you know, on my way to getting my coffee, So that's
Dude,
what I
so
want the effect.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've noticed there's I'm gonna try and simulate it here, but I've worked with, I don't want to name names on how artists work, but this is an artist I've worked with a few times, and I've watched them paint, and they'll do stuff like this, right? They'll get the color they want or whatever, and they'll paint it, and then they'll be like, no, no, no. So they'll constantly undo the paint stroke that they did until they get their like perfect stroke, and then that's the one they stick with. And
Wow.
that's like it's that, I guess that's the advantage of digital, right? It's like you can do that simulation over and over and over and over again until you
Right.
reach the one. Like I don't paint that way. Like I'm just like,
Right.
I just put it down and like, I didn't work that, I didn't like that, and I'll keep sampling and like repainting the area over and over and over again. But he will
Right.
just
Until it feels good.
undo. He'll undo until he has the perfect single stroke that he wants. Then he moves to the next one, and it's like, he's got it down so that it's just lightning fast. You see it just happening, like, and he's undoing stroke after stroke after stroke, but it's going crazy fast, and
That's
it works. Like it
yeah.
totally works for him.
Much respect, right? That's wow. That's I bet you Line Decker was like that. Like
Right.
super slow and was like because you could see it like in the studies. What if the finger was a little curled? What if the hand was a little turned? I don't
Mm-hmm.
like this full configuration. Let's try like 10 more,
Yeah.
you know? Uh,
I guarantee he was like that, man. I guarantee it.
oh my God. Yeah. Just like it's got to be right. And
There's
I get that to a certain extent, like it's just because, and more, I do it because I want to be more bold with my pieces. That's what I like, but I also want to be a little bit more control. Like I want to have a little bit more bravura out of my work,
mm-hmm.
um, and actually have more fun doing it too. Like kind of like
I think
yeah,
that's the
like you're saying,
point. Like
rehearsing it.
having the fun, and I assume in Rockwell and Leindecker's cases, like that actually was the fun for them. Um, I get impatient, I guess. If I had to paint a hand in 50 different poses before I found the right one, I would
Right.
be so over it. Um,
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes, you would.
yeah, I would be very, very over it. I don't have the patience for that.
Like I'm done. Okay. I could have just done 50 other
Yeah,
pieces.
like this happens to me on regular commissions where it's like, yeah, I got the feeling that I wanted of it in the sketch, and I don't even want to finish this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. Like, I guess I have to, but I don't really want to.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, done. Done. Yeah, that is true. It's and it's just goes to show, it's like do the thing that makes work in a way that makes you actually enjoy the process
Yeah, 100%. Like,
creating art.
don't get like frustrated like I do. Like, if you can find a way that it's super enjoyable to you, every inch of the painting, like every aspect of the painting is really enjoyable to you, then you're in a really good space. Like a
Right.
really good
And
space.
don't listen to people who are like, "Well, you should do it my way."
Yeah.
It's like listen, see how they work, but if it doesn't work for you and it doesn't get the results that you want, because that worked for them, but they don't realize how custom they are, like how it was specific that was designed for them, and so
Yeah,
of course
they,
it works for them and it works
yeah.
all the time because it's in line with their taste, their temperament, taste and temperament. So like, yeah,
And
like
it's also a process
it,
that they figured out for themselves. So why would their
right,
process work for you? Maybe aspects of it will, but most of the time, like, it's not going to 100% work for you. Otherwise, if it did, you'd only see artists that were just complete exact clones of every other artist, and you never see that.
exactly, exactly. Like, I don't mind talking about him, but Robin Elise is like that, like he and I'm okay talking about this because he said this publicly. Like a lot of people have told him, like when he was in school, like, oh, you gotta loosen up, you gotta paint with larger brushes, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
loosen up. And like that wasn't his. He realized, like, screw that, that's not who I am. I want small brushes and I want to tighten up more, and his stuff is awesome, but it was, to his aesthetic, it fit who he was as a person, you know
I
like
like
he
that though. I was just talking about this the other day about critique, and it's like you you don't have to take every critique you get as this is exactly how you have to do it. And
right,
Robin was Robin did that. He's like, people were critiquing like my mark making, but screw that. This is the way I want to make marks. I don't have to listen to
right.
that. I don't have to do that. Um, you can do whatever you want. Um, I don't know. It's like if you're in a critique situation like an art school, you don't have to do everything that everyone says in the critique.
Right.
You can pick the
True.
things that you think are interesting and are going to actually help the piece that you want to make, and then do those. That's
It's
how
it's
you're going to
an
grow.
it's an really, I would like put a caveat on it in the sense that, at least in my opinion, uh, I think that you have to develop your eye enough to be able to see that,
Oh, for
and
sure,
train enough
for
to be
sure.
able to see like why things work and why things don't, because you might not be able to. And I'm just speaking to people who are like just starting out. Like you might not be able to see the issues in your piece. Like just your eyes just not developed enough to see it. Like you might not know. Like, and you might think it looks just fine, but actually it doesn't, because your eye is underdeveloped, and a more experienced artist can see that. Uh, and it's their job to kind of help you reveal that to you so that you could see it and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that was there the whole time and I didn't see it. I thought it looked great."
Yeah,
Um, but you do get to a certain point, like Tyler was saying, um, where you know it becomes, and this is us. Like I felt like this was us at the end of our studies, where it was like the criticism became more about the art, the person's taste. It's like, you shouldn't paint like I don't like this thick area. It's not a
Yeah.
fan of this thick brushstroke. And it was like, well, it's because you don't like that type of stuff. It's not that it's bad on a fundamental level. It's fine. It's just more of a taste thing. It's like, it's not
That
my thing.
yeah, yeah. I think like the
So
way I guess I'm trying to find like the words to put on it. I think like when I'm saying like don't on critique when you're getting yeah, like when you're getting stuff that is taste based, it's different from like instruction, right? Like if someone is instructing you on how to paint something to look realistically, if you're not doing the right things, then yeah, then you're screwing up, right? You're not listening to the instruction. That's not I wouldn't even consider that critique, right? If someone's trying to paint a sphere and they're not doing the things that they need to make the sphere look realistic and the teacher is like, "Well, you need to do this and this." I wouldn't even call that critique. I'd just call that instruction.
right.
Um, so that's where you need to listen. That's where you can't be like, I'm not going to take that critique. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. It's like, well, the goal here is for you to paint realistically. So you need to follow these steps in order to get there. But yeah, but when it comes to when it's like what you just said, when it's instruction that is specifically taste based, that's when you can be like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'll take whatever is said that might be useful. Well, I was like, um, and I'll apply it. And anything that's not useful, I'm just not going to use.
Yeah, it's like the old some artists on I was listening to uh director's commentary on The Incredibles one time, because I as many of you know, a long time live brushers, I wanted to be an animator originally. That's the reason why I went to California. And so I was obsessed with Pixar because that's who I wanted to work for.
Mm-hmm.
And there during The Incredibles, you know, which I love Brad Bird, the Iron Giant. I mean, like all those people from that, that was a crazy Cal Arts class. And one of the animators was talking about critique sessions and how he learned, and they go on after each other, during these critiques. Like all these people are chiming in on these are some of the world's best artists, right? Chiming in on each other's work. And he said that I learned it's easy to be really precious and feel like offended by it, by the thing that's super precious to you. It's almost like it's easy to confuse a critique for an attack, a character,
Yeah.
an attack on on your character rather than your art, on your creation, So he says, I'm not when I'm being critiqued, I myself, I'm not in a good headspace to edit that information out. So what I do is I write everything down. It doesn't matter if I agree with it or not, but I know I'm not in the headspace to edit, right? So I'm just going to take everything unfiltered, and then later on, pick and choose what that, you know, what that feedback is, because you know, and that comes from a position where, like, at least with him, was everyone there he respected as an artist. Like we're incredible artists, so they're all giving their opinions on it. But when you have these incredibly skilled artists, also you have people that are a pride is becomes in. So it's like how do you manage that ego, to make sure that it's not getting in the way of your growth. So I
That's
always
awesome.
remember that where he said write everything down, you know, whether or not you agree with it or not. And to this day, that's what I do. Uh,
That's awesome. I never heard that story. You might have mentioned it, but that is that's kind of how I figured out how to deal with critique in art school. Like when we were all there together, like I was always I don't know intimidated by it, but I had to like slow it down and be like, I'm just not going to react. I'm just going to listen to it, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
eventually I'll let it sink in, and then like that gives me enough time to sit back and not be emotional about what I just heard because
right,
you're immediately your ego is going to be like, how do I deal? I got to deal with this emotionally now. I'm being attacked.
right,
Like that's just a
right,
natural
right.
response. But I would just
It's
let
so
it
hard.
sit.
It's so hard when you have it for like someone who's. See, here's the thing too. It's like when you have the person who's critiquing your artwork, you just don't respect as an artist.
Yeah, even
You know,
worse.
that's
Yeah.
also it's super hard. You know, but at the end of the day, they could actually be pointing out something valid. You know, that's what's frustrating about that too. It's like they can't do it themselves, but they're pointing out something that might be valid, and so you don't want that to sneak by you because you just think that they suck. So it's like, why am I listening to you? You know,
Yeah, and that
you didn't even
happened.
do the
I
homework.
feel
You
like
know.
that happened a lot. Like I don't want to. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
name any people, but like I remember in art school, there were a number of people in our
That guy
classes that I was
Tyler
just like,
was another
yeah,
one.
this guy, this guy, me. They were like, yeah, there were like a number of people. They were like, do you don't even show up for class, or when you do, you're kind of a pain in the ass. And now
Yeah,
you're telling me how to paint. But then it would be like
yeah,
sometimes they'd actually have something really good to say, and I'd
yeah.
just have to, I'd be like, I just got to use that. It was actually useful.
I was. I know there's a 3 minute warning, by the way. I
Yeah,
came. So my
your
I
clock.
learned that how to handle that, and I remembered that thing much later on in school, like you were saying, around the same time you figured it out. And I remember I was in Craig Nelson's um, narrative painting class, and it was the first class that everyone in there I felt was so skilled and so different, but really good at what they did.
Hmm.
That and it was the first group I remember this, and I'm like getting excited thinking about this, where everyone respected each other and like we were unfiltered with our like you should change this, move this around, but we all were had the like I'm working my tail off, you're working your tail off. We want this, you know, I want this to be a good painting. Like I want this to be good, you know. This is not a I'm not using this critique as a platform to basically putting you down, you know.
Right. There's
It's not
no
an
ego
ego thing,
involved.
you know.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like this beautiful experience, you know, that I'll never forget, you know. Uh, and it's like everyone's trying to help each other out. And that's when I really learned, like, oh, even then I disagreed with certain things, but everyone was so receptive to each other's feedback. Like, maybe you move this, maybe you move that. I think you should make this darker. I think you should make this lighter, you know. And so if you get into a room filled with your peers whom you really respect, I mean, that's where you have to kind of just put the ego to the side, because if you ask for their opinion on something, they're going to get and they give it to you. You can't get upset, right? For
Right.
what
Right.
it is that you wanted, right? Uh, so, yeah, but I
I got that.
digress. You
I
know.
got that experience. I've always got that experience when I'm doing those like concept pushes for like D&D or Magic. That
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
in a room of artists that I respect, that and I trust their judgment and their taste levels. We're all driving, right? We're all on the same page.
Right.
That and it's just like completely appropriate for for I don't know, I lost my train of thought there, I guess. But it's like it's the place where I'm comfortable and excited, and when people have feedback, I'm totally with it, right? I'm not there to be like defensive about anything. I'm
Right.
just there to jam. And that I
Right.
really like that experience.
Well, on that note,
We're done.
I think your piece doesn't look that good. You should
Great. Here
delete
we
it.
go.
Control Alt Delete. Yeah. That looks killer, dude. It looks
Thanks.
awesome,
I think
dude.
I'm
You
gonna.
should
I think
definitely
I'll flip it this way.
keep keep going
Keep rendering it.
on it.
No, I'm just gonna leave it.
Keep
I'm
going.
quitting.
Or quit it. What do whatever you want. I want you to have fun.
No, no.
So
I
are
think
you
I'm
going to
actually
continue
happy.
this next week?
Yeah, I think I will. I think I'll start tweaking stuff and
Okay.
maybe add some colors. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I gotta finish this bad boy pretty soon, so you probably won't see this. Um, but you know, it's getting there. We're putting the finishing touches on it, and I'm just gonna see what it looks like. I don't even know if this is this. How do I get this? Anyways, uh, who are you, sir? Tell the
Um,
people.
oh yeah, on our way out. We're on our way out here, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Uh, before I give my actual, I do want to say again, a lot of people who stream out there. We appreciate you guys tuning in for us. We always have a good time
Yes.
chatting and talking with you folks in the chat. I have been and always will be Tyler Jacobson, and you can find me at Tyler Jacobson Art on Instagram. And I'm not even going to say my website anymore. I'm just going to say Instagram. So yeah, check me out there. And who have you been?
I have been, and hopefully will be, Ray Bonilla. You can find my work at RaymondBonilla.com. I do have a website that I update, so please, feel free to go there. And you could also find my work on Instagram at Ray Bonilla Painter. So thank you again, everyone, for in the chat. Lovely. There was a bunch of questions and that we didn't get to, but I love we always appreciate the back and forth that the chat has with not only us but with each other, which is awesome. So if you are watching on YouTube on this video on demand, thank you for watching it on demand. We do have a YouTube channel for those of you who don't know. For those watching live, where you can find all of our episodes on demand there. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell notification so that you can see when the next episode comes out. They come out pretty regularly. And please also consider following us on Instagram if you want to find out, where we'll post images of the work and also announcements on whether or not the show is happening. Because sometimes there's a cancellation for whatever reason. You just go to our Instagram and you'll have all that information. So
I got COVID.
and
That's
that's
why. That's why
that
we canceled.
yeah. That's at Livebrush, just one word. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, please check
Uh,
us out there.
Yeah, cool. And so, with that being said, thank you everyone again. Good to be back, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Take
See you
care.
guys. Take care.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Ray.